Makes a lot of noise. Okay, cool. Awesome. So we're going to talk about Wizrobe's performance and like what it really means. So overall, very impressive. I think a lot of us have spoken in the past that we didn't think that Falcon was ever going to win a super major of like something like Smash and Splash's size. And granted, the context of when that happened was when like the Five Gods era was at its peak, I guess, where we had like Mewtwo and everybody competing. But even then, so let's see. Let me reorganize my thoughts. So I think it is a very impressive win. So just to recap some of the key highlights of the bracket that Wizrobe performed in. He beat Hungrybox twice, and Hungrybox has like been running through everybody. So regardless of what you think about Wizrobe's run, I don't think it should ever be contested that or like undermined that he beat Hungrybox twice. And I think that's like a key fact that for a lot of people that said like Wizzy got an easy bracket, he beat Hungrybox twice. So I want to just lay that out there from the get-go. Beating Hungrybox twice is like no easy task. Like we saw what Hungrybox did to like everybody else, Leffen, you know, Plup. So those were like, that's like a really impressive starting point to talk about Wizzy. And so I think the win is most certainly valid, and I think a lot of people are going to point out, well, Wizzy didn't have to play Plup, he didn't have to play Mango, arguably his two biggest demons. But the fact of the matter is, just to reemphasize the point about beating Hungrybox, is that Hungrybox has been seen as like a person that's had a reasonable, like, we would say that Hungrybox is reasonably the favorite whenever they play, and although that might not be as much the case now that we've seen Wizzy have some degree of success, that's still like beating Hungrybox twice is still like pretty hard. And he avoided Mango, but I think for every bracket now you have to get lucky, and you have to avoid a few of your tough matchups to win. Whether you are Mango, you know, who won Gommel, whether you're Leffen and you win an event, like, you need some sort of bracket luck to win. That's just the reality. Like, avoiding your tough matchup is something that happens in every tournament. This happens in card games. If you play like Magic or, you know, Hearthstone, playing the one meta deck that your deck doesn't fare well with is going to spell doom. And if we look at the larger context of everything, the last like greatest accomplishment of a Falcon main to win like a tournament of this scale, you'd have to go back to like Isaiah and like I think like the early era of Melee to see where like Falcon won like a really good tournament. So I think if we look at this in terms of all-time accomplishments, like this is like the best accomplishment that a Falcon main has done. I think ever throughout Melee history. I don't think there's any debate about it. There shouldn't be any debate about it, actually. So I think just from a historical context standpoint, Smash and Splash is a very remarkable event and a very historical event that we should be talking about, you know, down the road in the future. So I think that point is pretty well established, and I hope that I bring to context that this was a really big thing. On top of that, just to add the icing on the cake, like Wizzy also placed top 8 at in singles for you know, Smash Ultimate, and he beat Tweak in his run. And now there's statistics out there that he's like the only person that's beaten Tweak in Smash 4 or Smash Ultimate, Super Boom Fam in 64, and Hungrybox in Melee. These are all like pretty strong players in all 3 games. So now not only do we recognize Wizzy to be like an incredible you know, Smash, you know, Melee player, but he's just a good Smash player. Like, his resume all across the board is insane. Like, I think behind Zero and maybe Mewtwo and a few others, like, I think you can put Wizzy up there in terms of best Smash player. Like, if you look at relative skill level all across the board, across the Smash games and how well they do, Wizrobe has to be in the conversation for, like, best Smash player of all time. Well, not, like, best, but, like, he's, like, in the top 3. I think the honor still goes to, like, a Mewtwo I guess you could toss like Armada in there too. Armada's had a lot of accomplishments in other games, but I think you have to toss that in terms of like his accomplishments. So as far as like gameplay goes, I hope I've emphasized enough that like this is just a monumental event. I think on top of that, there were a lot of weaknesses of Wizzy I have historically not liked as a player. I felt that he was a player that was too flowcharty for his own good. He was very predictable. I used to warm him up for friendlies whenever he needed to like play against a Sheik Bracken, and I never really found like his Falcon executed well, and I think in Melee like that's like a large part of the game is executing, but I never felt like I was overwhelmed in any way. Like I felt like all the games are very winnable, and in fact a lot of our games used to be very close. But I think the big thing he did that really impressed me in terms of just like strictly gameplay is how his neutral looks now. He takes way more risks, and I think a lot of people when they think of like risk taking, they think of like Nun, like players like Nun or SJ, and like the hard reads they make to get combos are what people think of when they think of like Falcon hard reads. But in his neutral game now, like he's willing to take way more risks, and they're based on pretty solid reads. So and before his like callouts on opponents, you know, him trying to predict movement, it just looked kind of Hail Mary, where he would just try to run up and grab his opponent, and like that was his like mix up, and it wasn't really good or effective. But now we see like really good tomahawks and really good moments. So I lost that, unfortunately. But we saw really good tomahawks, really good mix-ups. Instead of what Wizzy would do, and his specialty historically has been to play defensive. So when you see him play against like Fox or Falco, he's able to maneuver out of pressure really well. And that's been one of his core strengths. But like he never knew how to approach like really well. But when you watch him play against like Leffen, and when you see him play against other characters, he's actually going in, taking space, and doing it consistently well. I think that's like one of the really important things that he learned recently, and that's like one of the things that stand out for me is like his ability to take space consistently well. I think what you could really look at in the past to highlight like how ineffective he was is like when he plays against Mango, how his Hail Marys were consistently really desperate, but now they're really good and they're really smart. I think what's also really cool is I think because in Smash 4, like I think because he plays all the different games, don't get me wrong, it's like hard to juggle back and forth between different games, but I really do believe that playing different games teaches Wizrobe unique skills that you wouldn't really learn just playing Melee, like, or you'd eventually learn, but not as quick. So a lot of the neutral game that he has, like, it kind of reminds me, like, especially when he plays against Hungrybox, like, it reminds me of, like, the Falcon neutral game on Smash 64. With the way he spaces, the way he zones, how patient he is for an opening, it's very Smash 64-esque. And I think also when he plays against Yoshi, like, he has so much experience, like, understanding the double jump mechanics and, like, how to play around it and how to play with it because he mains Yoshi in Smash 64. Like, I think that gives him a really good, you know, knowledge base in how to play against AMSA. I think his neutral is really patient, and largely because of how you have to play Smash 64. And I don't know exactly, you know, Smash Ultimate well enough to really give insight to like why, for example, or like how rather, Ultimate adds to his neutral game in Melee, but I imagine that it's probably adding some unique things that he's learning in that particular game. So that's like pretty interesting, and I think Muta King benefited in his neutral game actually from playing Brawl. So like I think there's like a lot of things you can learn from other games, and I think Wizrobe has like leveled up some of his neutral game actually. I can probably say it's probably because of his time spent in Ultimate. Now, we've already went over, and I'm emphasizing again, like, this win is really amazing, with lack of better words. I think the interesting questions we have now is, this isn't to hate on, you know, his accomplishments, because he's already taken Falcon to a spot that no one else has already had. But I still think the other questions that people may have are perfectly valid. So, like, now the question is, can he do this consistently? And not only that, but can he beat Mango? Can he beat Plup consistently? So I think it's like really interesting right now if you look at like the Melee like kind of like web of players in the like top 8, like, because I think that most maybe like except for Hungrybox, but like I think everyone in the top 8 has like really good matchups and really bad matchups where like you want to avoid these players, but like you would do really strong against these other players. So like Wizzy, for example, would probably want to avoid Plup and Mango in bracket in the future if he wants to maximize his chances of winning a Super Major. I'm trying to think of like other like kind of lopsided matchups. Plup would probably want to avoid Hungrybox. He'd rather Plup would probably want to play Mango more. I know that Plup can beat Hungrybox from time to time. The matchup spreads, or like the head-to-head's still pretty bad. And then, but I can't think of any off the top of my head. I wish I came better prepared. But everyone has matchups or brackets that they would rather or they're rooting for certain matchups. Like that was a mouthful. So I want to see, to me, this is kind of like my like future like I don't know challenge. I would love to see if Wizzy can beat Mango. I think that would like cement everything for me. Actually, I think that's gonna be like his greatest demon and greatest benchmark. And I'm not goal posting either. I want to make it abundantly clear. I am very impressed by what Wizzy has done. But I want to see him beat Mango, and I want to see him beat Plup, and I want to see if he can do those two things. It doesn't undermine any accomplishments he has, but I think if we want to continue to ride the legacy of Wizzy and kind of write the story, he's going to have to do those two things. But I think, I mean, there's potential for it. I think it's going to be hard, but I mean, he's already demonstrated in like a lot of the roadblocks that he's had in the past, like that we said like Wizzy can never do this or never do whatever. He's done it, so I think that's like my challenge to Wizzy down the road. Also, I think the other thing is, you know, working in esports, it's like the other big question we have now is like we have a lot of hashtags that say sponsor Wizzy. So I think Wizzy's done a lot to try to make himself more marketable. He's created, he has a YouTube channel that he's working on. I think if he worked with a guy that like really, like if he worked with somebody in the influencer space, I think there are some, you know, cool branding meme plays you can do around Wizzy. That could probably make it more marketable. Just like kind of in the past, like I have tried to work with Wizzy to get sponsorships, and like he's rejected them before in the past. So like teams have offered him, and it's not like no one has offered Wizzy in the past. So Wizzy has historically been waiting for like a deal and like a team he wants. So it's all about like him like finding a team that he wants to be a part of at the end of the day. So if you guys are this was like a year ago when, you know, this was all happening in regards to sponsors. So I don't know where things are at, but I would like to say like he has historically gone sponsored or teams offering him, you know, spots in the past, like big teams. So yeah, I'm overall very excited. I think it was a great day for Melee. I think the sets were really good to watch. I think, you know, even though my boy Mango lost, like that set was still really good. Leffen played amazing. Who else is there? I thought the Plup Leffen set was amazing. And I don't know, it was just like good melee all around. I think viewership went well. Whoever says that melee is dead, please stop that narrative. It's not dead. We're more than alive. We're in a great spot right now. So yeah, those are like kind of my thoughts on Wizzy as I try to win this game. We're gonna win this game, and kudos to Wizzy for proving me wrong. I didn't think it was ever gonna happen, and it did. So yeah, let me win this game. Those wow, this is taking like much longer than I thought it would. Please end in a W. Whoever said melee's dead. Alright, we won the game. Let's go.